All right, next item that we have, item number 16, tenant location assistance. We have two people signed up to speak on this. I'm going to call them first. Is Mr. Pena here?
I'm still here, Mayor.
You want to come and speak? And Mr. King, you're on deck.
Mayor, council members, Gustavo Gus Pena again, speaking on number 16 of the agenda. It's having to do with relocation assistance. You heard my comments before. Not enough empty units here in Austin, Texas. Not enough. You know, I'm fighting for my disability, service connected. But I still have time to go visit my brothers and sisters that are homeless. Where are we going to put them at, Mayor, council members? Where are we going to put them? Y'all have done a good job of pushing the issue, but it's just not about pushing the issue. It's about finding units for these people that are being displaced. Fox 7 had a good piece on homelessness where the owner started tearing down the motel units without notifying the tenants. My black brother, I can't remember his name, but he said it appropriately. Where are we going to go? You tore down the last housing that we had. It's just not a crisis. This is a serious issue right now for the city of Austin. We have I shouldn't say a black spot. I should maybe say, I went to Washington. I spoke to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. He's coming over to Austin. Spoke to his chief of staff. He will be undercover here visiting the VA clinic next week, 2 weeks from now, excuse me. Mayor, where are we going to put them? Once they leave the motel, yeah, you give them money for that. If they're able to, they will go to another motel, but that's redundancy at its worst. And I know y'all, y'all care. I really do. But where in the heck are we going to put them? I don't know. I cry. And my wife says, why are you crying? I said, what are they doing to the people? Or what are they not doing for the homeless? I can show you, Mayor, if you want to. You have 2 bodyguards, or you have the chief of police come along with us. I can show you where the camps are at. They'll allow me to take you over there, or anybody else that wants to. It is bad, Mayor. It is bad. And as it relates to the 16, funding for relocation is minute. It's not going to last. And it ain't going to be the best situation for a lot of people. We're the laughingstock of the United States of America. I've been to Washington twice within 3 months. This shouldn't happen. In a progressive city like Austin, Texas, it is getting not enough units, and it's too costly, too expensive. Anyway, please listen to what I said, and thank you for allowing me to rant and rave, but I love my homeless people. We need help for them. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Mr. King.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and council members, and thank you for your service to our community. Thank you for your leadership on homelessness crisis here in Austin. I haven't seen the results from the last point in time count, but my understanding was that the expectation is that the numbers would be higher. We'd have more homeless people. So I know this is a crisis for our city, and I appreciate you stepping up to attack this crisis head on. As I understand, though, and maybe you can help me make sure that my understanding is correct, the $320,000 budget for this proposal will come from the rental assistance funding intended to help prevent displacement of low-income families in Austin. So if I'm understanding this properly, or maybe the question is, are we using the money designated to prevent displacement of low-income families to facilitate displacement of low-income families in order to make room for homeless people. Is that really what we're doing? These are low-income families that have found a place to live that's affordable to them. And now we're saying, oh, we need it for the homeless people, so here's some money for you to relocate. And that money that we're spending to relocate these low-income families to make room for homeless people is coming out of the bucket that we need to help people to prevent displacement of low-income families in Austin. And if it's coming from our rental assistance program, that money is used for people that are displaced from development. And so if the homelessness issue is a crisis, then the displacement issue is definitely a crisis. City data shows that 262,896 households are at risk of displacement. You have that data. That equates to over 577,000 people at risk of displacement in our city. Is that a crisis? I think you know the answer to that. But is it being treated as a crisis? We have $7.45 million in our budget for anti-displacement. Seattle has over $110 million in their budget for anti-displacement. And the mayor, you have said that the current land development code is one of the root causes for the displacement issue in Austin. Well, if that's the fact, then provide us data on how the proposed land development code will prevent displacement, will materially change the displacement issues in our city. Where is that data? It has not come forth in the land development code discussion. I've requested that data through a public information request and got a reply. It will cost you $669, Mr. King, to get that data. I can't afford $669 to get that data, but we deserve that data. So I'm asking you to provide that data to the public before you flip the switch on the third reading of the Land Development Code. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the speakers we have on item number 16, which I think allows us to use the CDBG funding for this because it's an allowed use of those federal funds. I think it's going to require us to relocate 10 people while we refurnish units. It's obviously to give us 87 total units, and hopefully they won't need as much as they said at our work session, as has been identified here. Yes.
And I made somewhat similar remarks. I'm going to support this today, even though I have some concerns with it because it turns out that it's a federal requirement. We don't really have a lot of options on this, but knowing that staff's going to work to limit this cost as much as possible is good to know.
Okay, great. Councilmember Alter?
Can we hear from staff about, and I might have missed this on Tuesday, but I'm curious as the number of people that we are displacing. I know it's the federal requirements require substantial funding for addressing it, but I don't know how many people we're talking about.
Alex Gale, interim officer for the Office of Real Estate Services. So there's a total of what we're calling 9 household units, which is a total of 11 people, all adults.
So the amount that you're asking for, it just seems like that's an awful lot of money for
What we did,
that many households.
what we did is we calculated that based on a worst case scenario of determining what these individuals or the families have as their gross monthly income. So when we calculate a rental assistance payment, we typically look at what they're currently paying at the subject property, go out into the market, find a comparable property that's decent, safe, and sanitary, and take the difference between those. But with a low-income individual or family, we will take into account their gross monthly income and take 30% of that to calculate the supplement. And so in this case, we just assumed everybody there is low income to calculate what this replacement rental assistance payment would be. On top of that rental assistance payment, we're also making them eligible for moving their personal property from the home as well. So they have a moving payment that they receive in addition to that.
Okay. So it's just expensive for housing, and that's why, because it's like 42 months that we're coming?
Correct. So
Is
it's
that-
a 42-month
Okay,
supplement.
so it adds
of
up
3.5
pretty,
years.
it adds up pretty quickly there
Correct.
then.
So it's
Okay.
that difference times the 42-month, like you explained, to basically help find them, make them whole, and put them into a replacement home that they're of their choosing.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, Rodriguez.
you know, I actually understand that, you know, the people that have been staying there in the hotels, in the motels like that is, they normally go in there when the weather is pretty bad, and they move in with people that are other people, so they can afford just to have a couple of days out of when the weather is very extreme, and because that's all they can afford. And this is a federal requirement that we're facing because we're using federal money to buy that motel. You know, going through this experience, you know, I kind of regret that I went ahead and approved this motel purchase. You know, it's just getting to the point where it's getting to where the kind of questions and answers and accusations that we're going through. You know, we're trying to help transitional housing for these people that are out on the street. That's all we're trying to do. You know, we're not trying to kick anybody out of these motels that are living there. You know, these people themselves are going to have to move out of that after a couple of days because they can't afford to be living in a permanent structure. So they use these motels for a couple of days or a week when they do get enough money that they earn out there working to get out of the elements. And it's giving me a bad taste to have to, you know, see that what we're going through and the questions that and accusation that we're kicking people out on the street. We're not doing that. We're actually paying them that they're going to get, with the money that we're going to provide them, they're going to be able to stay at a more permanent location. And when we get done, most likely these people are going to be the ones that come back and live in that place. You know, we're really trying to do our best here, and that's all we're doing.
Yes, Councilmember Kitchen.
Thank you, Councilmember Renteria. I just want to echo what you said. I mean, the bottom line is these folks are actually going to get more help than they might have gotten otherwise and have a better route to getting more permanency. So I think it's a win-win.
Let's go ahead and vote. Those in favor of 16, please raise your hand. Those opposed, unanimous on the dais with Councilmember Harper Madison off. Then 16 passes. I think that gets us then up to 74.
Mayor, I know that you said that you wanted to hear 48, which is the airport overlay with the zoning cases. But because I'm assuming we're going to have some dead space from when we're done here into zoning, if airport staff are still here, I would like to ask questions about 48.
That'd be fine.
During that time? Okay.
Yes, we'll go ahead and do that. My hope is to be able to call all the speakers at the same time, but let's get staff up here to talk. But before we do that,